Well, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. I don't have an announcement sheet, so I guess nothing worth note is going on. What's today, the 15th?
Unless you're going to BBS.
Right. So we'll just skip straight to prayers. How can we pray?
When Nichols recovery, I guess the surgery went okay.
Good.
And his kidney removed, I think. No, he probably did. They do that, and then they wait 6 to 8 weeks or something.
So it's straight dialysis. Diane Brooks, she has COVID.
She has COVID?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Was there BBS? That's for the days this week. She was here at BBS.
She didn't get it till first of the month. They've been in there a lot, you don't know.
She had a really rough time with it last time.
Do it. Thank you.
I'll kick you both out. Any other prayer requests? Going once, going twice. All right, let's bow. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the sunshine and the warm weather that you sent our way. Father, just thank you for another chance to come and worship you. I pray that you just be with us today as we lift your name to you. Father, just help us to worship you in a manner that's pleasing in your sight. Father, lift up Mr. Nichols and his surgery. I pray that you be with them and just their recovery. Father, I also pray that you be with Diane battles COVID. Help her to have the strength and just help us to be there for both of them in whatever capacity they may need us. Father, I pray that you be with me. Help me to be a vessel for your word. Just, Father, help the words out of my mouth be guided for your use. It's in your son's name I pray. Amen. If you're Both are valid definitions. They help make things grow, and we can't see in the dark. To guide, that's a good one.
I say the opposite, to lead, like, head towards the lighthouse, you know.
Yeah, guide, lead. Any others? To show something? Okay.
Or better say to highlight.
To highlight. I like that. There are healing powers to light. Everybody needs some vitamin D every now and again. Got to get the sunshine on the skin. Don't be like me. When Kaylee and I went on our honeymoon, we went down to Turks and Caicos, and I love the ocean and like riding the waves. I like it when it's rough, the double red flags. That's when I like to be in the ocean. The entire trip, Kaylee was like, these are the calmest waters you'll ever see. It's so peaceful and relaxing. And I'm not a beach guy to begin with, so like if I'm going to be at the beach, I want to be in the water. And I want it to be like hurricane level waters. But anyways, she had been bragging about how calm these beaches were, how calm the waters would be, and I was just getting more and more bummed out because I was only going to get to play golf one day. And we get there, and we walk down to the beach, and it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's like a tropical storm had just come through, so it's like double red flag. So naturally, into the water I go. And we're probably out there for 2 hours. I didn't have a thing of sunscreen on, and it was the worst sunburn of my life. It was horrible. The sun does hit different down close to the equator. So learn from my mistake. Happy Father's Day. So the reason I bring up light and darkness is we're transitioning back into John chapter 8. We're transitioning away from the woman who was caught in adultery, kind of back to the ending of the Festival of Booths. So here in this lesson we're going to be studying verses 12 through 59. There's a lot of dialogue between Jesus and the Pharisees. There's a lot of argument for argument's sake, I guess you could say. So we're going to jump in, and I'll read verses 12 through 20. Again, chapter 8, verses 12 through 20. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So the Pharisees said to him, You are bearing witness about yourself. Your testimony is not true. Jesus answered, Even if I do bear witness about myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I came from and where I am going. But you do not know where I come from or where I am going. You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. Yet even if I do judge, my judgment is true, for it is not I alone who judge, but I and the Father who sent me. In your law it is written that the testimony of two people is true. I am the one who bears witness about myself, and the Father who sent me bears witness about me. They said to him, therefore, Where is your Father? Jesus answered, You know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. These words he spoke in the treasury as he taught in the temple. But no one arrested him, because his hour had not yet come. So, if your heading is like mine, the little subsection as we dive into chapter 12 is, I am the light of the world. So Jesus assumes the title, I am light of the world, which kind of insinuates that the world they are in and the world they're living and the people they are, they're in the dark, right? So the Pharisees, being the Pharisees, all haughty and, prideful and whatnot, challenge him. And just because you say it doesn't make it so. So they're kind of, in these first 8 verses, they are questioning Jesus on his authority. Jesus speaks with authority. Jesus says that he is sent from the Father and he knows the Father, and all those who follow him will have a life full of light. But if they stay in their current light, or their current state of life, then they'll stay in the dark. And the Pharisees don't understand. It's kind of, if you're like me, it's kind of like being in a math class. You're sitting there and you're finally starting to get into some of the more advanced math. And the teacher explains it to you, and she writes the problem up on the board, and then you're just looking at it. And all you hear in your head is, cuckoo, cuckoo, because you don't get it. So they're not really picking up on what Jesus is saying. They're not really understanding the message. Their biggest hang was in the old law, for you to bear witness, you had to have 2 witnesses. And they were saying that he was only one man. How can he bear witness on himself? How can we know it's true? How can you say all these things about yourself, but we know it to be true because you're only one man who's talking? So Jesus proves his testimony and proves himself to be true by saying, I can bear witness for myself, and the Father who sent me bears witness. So Jesus and the Father, Jesus knows his Father. However, the Pharisees didn't know it. Questions before we get into the next little subsection? Nope. Okay. Will somebody read verses 21 through 30?
So he said to them again, I am going away, and you will seek me, and you will die in your sins. Where I am going, you cannot come. So the Jews said, Will he kill himself, since he says, Where I am going, you cannot come? He said to them, You are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. I told you that you would die in your sins, for unless you believe that I am he, you will die in your sins. So they said to him, Who are you? Jesus said to them, Just what I have been telling you from the beginning. I have much to say about you and much to judge, but he who sent me is true, and I have declared to the world what I have heard from him. They did not understand that he had been speaking to them about the Father. So Jesus said to them, When you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing on my own authority, but speak just as the Father taught me. And he who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him. As he was saying these things, many believed in him.
Thank you. Right out of the gate, you can see the confusion. I mean, they truly didn't understand who Jesus was, because when he said that he was going to a place they could not follow, they thought he was going to kill himself. There's a clear gap in the communication here. So, Jesus being Jesus has a way of cryptically explaining everything. He keeps referring to his Father. He keeps referring to going to this place that nobody will follow him. But people don't understand because they can't put two and two together. So, there's also a lot of contrast. You can see back in verse 23. Oh, that's on my other page. You are from below, and I am from above. You are of this world, and I am not of this world. So clearly, he's creating a divide between himself and where they currently are. It's important to note it's where they currently are. And he goes on. Wow, okay. So he sets the precedent that unless you believe that Jesus is who he says he is, which at the end of this particular portion of verses people started to, unless you believe who Jesus says he is, you are dead to yourself. You will not make it. You will die to your sins. So Jesus goes on to explain, I think it's verse 25 or 26, I have much to say about you and much to judge, but he who sent me is true, and I declare to the world what I have heard from him. Oh, no, that was the wrong verse. 28. Apologize. So Jesus said to them, and when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing on my own authority, but speak just as my Father has taught me. What do you think he means by that?
When they crucify?
Crucifixion. When you lift me up to kill me, you will know that everything I've said up to this point is true. Now, how are they going to know what he's talking about?
All the prophecies have been fulfilled. You have the, it's prophesied about the garments being torn, about the, I forget what you call it, they're going to pull, the ground is going to shake, the veil
Right.
is going to be split, they're going to see the dead rise, all those things.
Mm-hmm. So there are prophecies. Tim's right. I mean, the Pharisees of any of the people should know and should be able to see that the prophecies are slowly starting to be filled, slowly starting to come true as they were prophesied. Maybe not so much the common folk that he's preaching to, but if you see at the end of this passage, as he was saying these things, many people started to believe. Whether it be out of fear of not knowing what it is, whether it be awestruck with how well he spoke of himself, whatever the message be and whatever Jesus used to get people to believe, maybe it's just the fact that he was Jesus and the power that he was speaking with was from God, that people started to believe. So, any questions, thoughts, comments? If not, this is going to be a quick one, guys. Sir.
He was trying to show these people that he was the Son of God. Like he uses the expression there in verse 28. Is the case in many other places where he talks about he said, the Son of Man.
Mm-hmm.
You will know that I'm he.
Mm-hmm.
That he was trying to point that he was the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just curiosity just caught my attention that trying to convince them that he was the Son of God, but he called himself the Son of Man.
Right. So part of that, I'm probably not the person to be answering this question. But he came to serve and save man, right? So he was the Son of Man. It's always been my personal belief, Arthur, my personal belief, not what the Bible says, that it's not Jesus' job to come out and say that I am Jesus, Son of God. There always has to be this kind of, if you're going to have faith, you have to do your work. You can't, it's not going to be easy. They're not going to explain everything for you. God's not going to come out and say, this is what you have to do to get to heaven, right? He just says, keep my word and follow me. Love your neighbor as yourself. Obviously, love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Really, the rest is on us. He gives us that kind of walk. But the Son of Man reference, I think, is because he came to seek and save man. So he refers to himself a lot as the Son of Man. But it would be a lot easier if Jesus comes out and just said, I am Jesus, Son of God. Which he kind of will towards the end of this chapter, but for us today, I don't think, I mean, obviously we understand that Jesus is the Son of God. It couldn't be more plain and simple, cut and dry for us. But there still has to be that faith element where you have to go in and you have to work. It can't always be laid out in just step-by-step fashion. This is how you do it, right? I don't know if that answers your question or not. I hope it does.
From the studies that we've been working, building up, he used so many of the examples from the I know I'm going blank, but what's the thing that's inside of you?
The Spirit?
The demon possessed.
Oh, yeah.
Things I couldn't think of what it is, but they said who he was multiple times from different. He didn't never have to say it. They said before him, and also even prior to this, the Pharisees and Sadducees knew who he was, which is one reason why they decided to kill him, because they knew based off of, hold on, if this is him, he's going to take too much of our power.
Right.
This is prior to where we are now. So they knew who he was. They knew who he was. They knew he was the Messiah in so many ways. If you think about how they worded, okay, we've seen him do too many things. There's nobody that's done this up to this point. We need to get rid of this guy because he's going to make us look bad.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, though, and this is me being devil's advocate, given everything we've talked about, given all the signs that he performed, and given what the Jewish faith believes, because I could be wrong, and I've been saying this wrong, and if that is, I apologize, but the Jewish faith is centralized around a Messiah coming to build a kingdom on earth. So if he's doing all these things, and the prophecies are becoming fulfilled, and he's casting out demons, and the demons are saying, you are the Son of God. This is he. Why would they not be more excited? It's like, finally.
Who wants to give up power? We are prideful people. We are so prideful that we know a lot of times things that are right, and we still, because of the pride that we have, won't do the right thing, which is one reason why he says the pride of life. We are so prideful as people, and we're so power hungry in most cases, which is what they were, that we will refuse right from wrong. We want to be so accepted in some cases. Like if you think about right now, we are, what is this, Pride Month, supposedly. And everybody accepts it for what it is because nobody wants to be outcast. But that's that pride, that's that acceptance. We want to accept, we don't want to be the one that somebody stands and pushes out. That's how they were. They wanted to be who they were. They were created, or they were made to stand powerful. They felt like they were powerful. They were the Sanhedrin.
The Jewish people also had lost their bid to be the chosen people many, many times. And this Jesus here is preaching to everybody, which is something they don't believe. They believe that you have to be Jewish. You have to be born into Judaism. But Jesus' main audience are, the downtrodden and the sick and the sinners and things like that. And so that whole stance is completely against what the Jewish people would believe would be their Messiah. And that's the whole reason, that Jesus comes and is crucified, is so that everyone can come to God through him, not just who you're born to, whether you're Jewish or not. So they have a real problem with that aspect of it too. He's not just, if he had come and said, I'm here for all my main peeps, and then he left out, the prostitutes and the sinners and the, what's it called, the others? Gentiles, thank you. Then they wouldn't have had any issue with it, but that wasn't his goal, and that was because they gave up their right by falling away
So it truly speaks to the eternal flaw of men. This whole kind of construct and this whole lesson that's kind of unearthing what Jesus has become. They become powerful. Nobody wants to give up power, not even for the one thing that you were eternally promised.
Another way that I look at it is, here's Jesus. He's been talking about setting up his kingdom on earth. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to set it up. And the Sanhedrin and several followers are going, when? And he's always telling them, it's going to happen later. It's going to happen later. I feel they were going, okay, we're going to do this to you to force you to do it now on our time schedule.
Impatience could be a part of it. But this, I mean, it all comes back to the flaws of men. You were promised the promised land. You're being filled, like your prophecies and your history books are being completely fulfilled. It is a foreign idea of what you've been taught your whole life. And now that it's all kind of accumulating and you've got this guy who's promising what you think is what you want, but he's not doing it right now, like, you're here. What's going on? Last time I checked, Caesar was still in power. It's a lot.
And he's from Galilee.
And he's from Galilee. That's right. He's not from Bethlehem. To their minds. Obviously, we know better. But anyways, a lot of good points. And it goes to show, it makes you think if you were ever in that position, how you would respond to. Like, that's something I struggle with every time when I'm studying for these, is seeing the Pharisees and the Sadducees and how they respond. And they're educated and they know what their law states and just how horribly they handled this whole situation. Anyways, moving on. Verses 31 through 38. So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." They answered him, "We are offspring of Abraham and have never been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free?" Jesus answered them in verse 34, "Truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever, the son remains forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. I know that you are offspring of Abraham, yet you seek to kill me because my words finds no place in you. I speak of what I have seen with my Father, and you do what you have heard from your father." A lot going on. So, this was one of my mom's favorite points growing up. The truth will set you free. When I read this, I also think of A Few Good Men, Jack Nicholson's character, you know. And anyways, that's a bad point. Belief in Jesus will set you free from sin. So belief involves what? Don't cheat. To believe in something, you have to have certain virtues about this belief. You have to act certain ways. You have to be obedient to what you believe. I believe Arkansas will win me a national championship. I am unwavering in that. One of these days, the eternal glory of Arkansas having a national championship, not eternal, but the glory of having Arkansas having a national championship will happen. It probably won't be Sam Pittman, but it will happen. I am obedient to a fault of supporting that team. There has to be an obedience in your faith. You can't just pick and choose your verses that you like. You can't just pick and choose the things in the Bible that make it seem good, make your life feel better. You have to pay attention to the other verses about whatever else you're doing, like Tim's shirt he wore last week with all the sins on it. It's a great fashion choice. I need that shirt. You can't pick and choose. You have to be wholly obedient to what it is that we are learning about, what it is we talk about, what it is we read about, because the truth will set you free. Jewish leaders, in typical Jewish leader fashion, didn't understand. And I find this verse hilarious. We've never been slaves of anyone. Well, last time I checked, you were slaves to the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Persians. You went through that whole period in Judges where it was just rejoice, you were saved, you're going good, you fall away, the earth swallows you up, you got to cry for help. Just an endless cycle. It is one of the more depressing books of the Bible. I remember studying it in college and just like my outlook after the first couple of weeks really went downhill because it's sad. And then obviously, all those examples are in the past, but currently, they're not slaves to the Romans. but they're living under a Roman Empire, Roman rule. They have their own system that the Romans are so kind enough to let them keep. Some of the centurions are nice enough to build them synagogues and give them places to worship and practice their own religions. But they still got to pay taxes. So I find that we were slaves to no one. That was hilarious to me. But anyways, Jesus was speaking about spiritual slavery. If you practice sin, which we all do, you are a slave to it. And then obviously Jesus goes on to say that he can set you free, but it all goes back to this little point right here. Believing in Jesus and in a willful obedience. So, Jesus has said it, or Paul and the apostles talk about it, Paul specifically, you have to be a slave to God. You have to pick a master. You can't serve two. You're either a slave to sin or a slave to God. Questions? Thoughts? Nope. Okay. Sorry.
Just a few comments on that. In that verse 31, 32, always call my attention that he said that he was talking to the Jews that believe.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't talking to unbelievers, but believers.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, if you abide in my word, you'll be pretty much disciples.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I don't know, like an application probably for today's life, but you can be a believer, but not necessarily a disciple. And he was talking to people that believe in him. They were Jews, but they believe.
Mm-hmm.
The verse says. And they said, but you are not my disciples. Because you are not following, basically, what you know is true.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like probably is the case today with many people. If you go around asking people, do you believe in Jesus? Most people are going to say, yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
But they are not necessarily followers of Jesus. Just a comment.
Right. It's a very true statement. I don't want to step on toes, but I think that's what we're called to do. I would feel like a lot of us at some point in our lives have struggled with this. I mean, it just goes back to the comment of picking and choosing. You can call yourself a disciple, and you can check all the boxes, but like as soon as you leave church and you get away from all your church friends and the people you see on Sundays and Wednesdays, if you're going, that's one part of your life. And then it's back to whatever addiction afflicts you, gambling, whatever. I'm not going to list them. Timothy has a great shirt about it. You should see. But yeah, Jesus was speaking. I think too, part of Jesus speaking to, or the clarification he was speaking to those who believed, is he was speaking to the ones who just started to believe in him in the prior passage. So he's not. This is foreign to them as well. So he's laying the groundwork for them. Is like, now you believe. Now you have to follow me. You want to be my disciple, you have to follow what I say. You have to do as I do. So he's laying the groundwork for what all they have to do. A great comment, though. Verse 39. And they answered him, they being the Pharisees, Abraham is our father. Jesus said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works of Abraham. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, that I heard from God. This is not what, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from God. This is not what Abraham did. You were doing the works of your father, that your father did. And they said to him, we were not born of sexual immorality. We have one Father, even God. Jesus said to them, if God were your Father, you would love me, for I came from God, and I am here. I came not of my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do as your father desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? Whoever is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is because you are not of God. Bam. Mic drop. So, Jews being Jews, find a way to trace their lineage back as far as they possibly can. All the way back to Abraham, who made the original covenant with God, if you remember. Abraham's the patriarch of the Jewish faith, right? Him and Moses. So they're tracing their lineage back, saying that we are from Abraham. We're as holy gets. But Jesus flips it on them. Because he tells them, if you were of Abraham, you would know who I am. You would love me. You wouldn't be deceived by the lies. You wouldn't be acting as you were acting. You wouldn't be plotting to kill me. If you were truly of Abraham and you acted as Abraham did, you would not want to kill me. So, where do we see this behavior today? Everything we've talked about. You think about Jesus trying to explain to the Jews who he is. I can always find a way to relate my lessons back to my kids. Don't touch the socket. Why not? It'll hurt. I'm going to try it. Okay. Don't touch it. You tell your kids because you love them and you want nothing bad to happen to them. Don't touch it. Over and over and over and over. And then you turn your back and you see the lights flicker and then the kid's crying and you wonder what happened. And it's like, well, he touched the socket. It happens. Curiosity kills the cat. But here we see it. Jesus is trying to explain to these Pharisees and to the Jews, I am who I say I am. That's foreshadowing. Just want to say that. But where do we see it today? Where do we see people knowing what is right, being told directly what is right, and meeting it with the fiercest of opposition?
You see it everywhere, even in some churches. Like, the Bible is saying this directly to you, and you're going, well, this verse says this. Okay, what about the one before it and the one after it? Like, don't just use one verse to support your idea. Use it in context. Take it in context as the whole truth, not just what you feel it is.
So how do we fix it?
You first need to be the example, because a lot of times we say one thing and we do another thing. And like you just said a few minutes ago, we do it here, but then a lot of us, if you catch us outside of here, we're rude, we're mean, we use vulgar language, we do everything, and then when we come back, we're hypocrites. And so we come back and we be like, oh, yeah, love God. And then we go back and like, I mean, you can't be, you almost like when we go home, we turn our backs to God, because you almost have to turn him off how we act,
Mm-hmm.
especially in our workplaces.
Yeah.
Or how we treat, I don't want to take a, but there's a stat that says like 1 out of 5 households are abusive. So if you think about a church this size, and if that number is average, in this church, 1 out of 5, it might not be the number in the church, but it's probably, so you have people that go home and do things that they know that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Come here and smile and cheer, and then they go home and be abusive to their family.
Yeah. So it starts with us. I think this whole point of the lesson kind of is just placed on a pedestal in this particular set of verses. The Jews have no answers for him, so they do what they know left to do before they start acting like children. Because at some point, it's always funny, whenever somebody is losing an argument, at some point when it's too far gone and they are so dead set on dying on whatever hill they're standing on, it turns to childlike behavior, right? Name calling, physical, whatever they can do to try to assert the dominance back. Because there have been plenty of times in my life where as soon as I leave here, my mind goes, and I'm back to everything that I knew is wrong. everything that I know I shouldn't be doing, especially when I was young. I've lived the life that you shouldn't live. I've been bitten too many times to count, only to know that I myself was a hypocrite, probably still am in some extent of the word, and I lean and rely too heavily on a gift that probably will run out if you continue to live that way, which is grace. Because when you earn grace, and grace is gifted to you, you have to be genuine with your forgiveness. You have to be sincere when you ask for it. And you can't just be like, man, today was crazy. I'll just ask Jesus for forgiveness, and then immediately the next day be like, how crazy is today going to get? Right?
Well, that's the reason that we have the church, and we have classes like this, is to reinvigorate one another and encourage one another, and to admit that just what you admitted, that you are a sinner, I'm a sinner, everyone in here is sinners. But as long as we stay and follow his teachings, eventually, hopefully, in older age, in my case, that you will have accumulated enough knowledge that petty things that happen to you as soon as you leave here, or to me, or whoever, becomes not so important anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great comment. So, I want to get through the rest of this lesson. So, Jesus called them and told them that they were of the devil. Their father was the devil. Can't think of a bigger slap to the face to the Jews than that, right? Called them murderers, called them liars, which they were, or were going to be. So they didn't hear his words because they were not of God. So to close out the chapter, I'll go ahead and finish up with the scripture. Verses 48 through 59. This is where it gets real good. The Jews answered him, "Are we not right in saying that you are a Samaritan and have a demon?" Jesus answered, "I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. Yet I do not seek my own glory. There is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Truly, truly, I say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death." Then the Jews said to him, "Now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died, as did the prophets. Yet you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died, and the prophets who died? Who do you make yourself out to be?" Jesus answered, "If I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say he is our God. But you have not known him. I know him. If I were to say to you, I do not know him, then I would be a liar like you. But I do know him, and I keep his words. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad." So the Jews said to him, "You are not yet 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham?" And Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." So they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. Man, just a lot going on in today's lesson. I mean, just blow for blow. So, like I said, childlike behavior, name calling, Samaritan, you have a demon. Jesus, being Jesus, didn't stoop to their level. He kept his cool. He was calm and collected. He didn't stoop down and be like, no, you guys are idiots and liars. He just told them, I don't have a demon, and I'm here to preach and give glory to my Father who sent me. And again, the Jews thought he was talking physically, not spiritually. But Jesus was referencing spiritual death when he was saying that whoever believes in me will not taste death. So the Pharisees returned to their name calling. Who do you think you are? And this one really stuck, is the thorn in the side, right? Because if you think back to Moses in the burning bush, how does God refer to himself when he's speaking to Moses? I am the I am. The holiest of names that God gave himself, Jesus just called himself. So, they didn't like him now, they definitely don't like him. Or they didn't like him then, they definitely don't like him now. So, the darkness in their hearts hid the true meaning of the statement. So they picked up stones to stone him, but just as it has been referenced throughout chapter 8, it's not his time yet. So he sneaks out the back. Conclusion. We have about 3 minutes. How, or what lessons about how not to handle conflict from the Jews have we learned? Anybody?
I think they're a good example of when someone gets their mind set against something, good or bad, it's almost impossible to reason with that person outside of what they want to believe. And in this case, Jesus is saying, I am all the things that you've been waiting for, but they refuse to hear it and refuse to believe it. And we know that it's because, God has this bigger plan that he's going to crucify his son so that all may be saved. But it's like, I lost my train of thought, just mid-conversation. But in today's era of having sins that were once so taboo be out in the front of everything and to be forced to, in a way, accepted to save your own hide, it feels impossible to reason with them, much like Jesus was trying to reason the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and it was impossible for them, and now we're faced with, like Tim was saying, if you stand up and say that you're against what has now been made mainstream, you will be ostracized, and you will be cast out, and you'll be called names, and you'll be, you'll lose any sort of standing that you might have because that's what is accepted. And any time you go against that, you're setting yourself up to be put back down. And so it's very hard to have any kind of conversation, even if you come at it from a place of love, because people want to believe what they want to believe, and ultimately everybody wants to be accepted for who they are. But at the end of the day, that's not what God says. And that's hard. Even, if that's something that you personally, all sin is equal. And it's like, picking and choosing which sin is worse. Is it going to make it? Okay, I killed your 3 minutes. You're welcome.
No, it's fine. To wrap up what she said in short, patience, love, open mind, no condemnations. Don't be slinging insults, hurling insults, picking up stones, right? Love the person, love the sinner, not the sin. Have patience. Patience is a virtue. And then purpose of light is to remove darkness. So we pretty much covered that. Anyways, thanks for being here. I hope you learned something. I hope I was good enough to teach you something. Let's go have a great day of worship. Happy Father's Day.